Picture this, a room full of engineers and psychologists working tirelessly to design an app so addictive it can hijack your attention, control your actions, and destroy your free will. This is TikTok.
TikTok
It's just like gambling.
Is a serious problem.
We may be banning TikTok.
We all know TikTok is bad for us. So this begs the question, why do we keep scrolling? As a leading expert on addiction, this raised my curiosity. So I dug deeper into TikTok's dark history, and what I found shocked me. Today we'll explore how the creators of TikTok have perfected an evil strategy that exploits ancient mechanisms in your brain and developed a product so addictive it's led to an era where depression and anxiety rates are skyrocketing. And for you to truly understand this, I need to explain to you what Steve Jobs, China, a mirror, and a monkey all have in common. Let's start with Steve Jobs. It's October 2001 at a special event hosted by Apple in California. Steve Jobs walked out on stage and introduces the iPod as a revolutionary device that will put 1,000 songs in your pocket. Now, as a visionary, this is one of the proudest moments of his life. It's a day he believes will change the course of history forever.
You can take your whole music library with you right in your pocket. Never before possible.
And on this point, he wasn't wrong. The iPod did change the course of history, but not in the way he envisioned, as the device has evolved from 1,000 songs in your pocket into an addictive slot machine in your pocket instead. Now, it might sound far-fetched, but the parallels between TikTok and casinos are striking and deeply concerning. But suspiciously, no one is talking about the psychological tricks the app is using to influence your brain and your behavior. To understand how TikTok became the digital slot machine in our pockets and the danger this entails, we need to understand the app's unusual beginning. Let's jump to 2014. Snapchat was all the rage. Instagram was chronological, and this little app called Musical.ly was about to change everything. It started as a simple platform for users to lip sync to popular songs. Sounds harmless, but that wasn't the case. Musical.ly exploded in popularity, especially amongst teens and preteens. Kids were spending hours perfecting their 15-second performances, chasing likes and gathering followings. Parents were largely oblivious, thinking it was just another passing fad. But over in China, a tech company called ByteDance was paying close attention. And in 2017, they made a move that would reshape the social media landscape. They bought Musical.ly for a cool $1 billion and merged it with their own app, TikTok, in August of 2018. But this wasn't just a rebrand. It was the birth of what was a social media behemoth and the beginning of a dangerous social experiment. TikTok took Musical.ly's addictive formula and supercharged it. They kept the short-form video format, but expanded beyond just lip syncing, where users create all sorts of content: dance routines, comedy skits, educational clips, you name it. But here's the kicker. They paired the endless variety with an algorithm so powerful, it seemed to know what you wanted before you did. And the growth that followed was nothing short of explosive. By 2018, TikTok was the most downloaded app in the United States. And by 2021, it had over 1 billion active users worldwide. That's 1 in 8 people on the planet scrolling through TikTok. Let that sink in just for a moment. TikTok's success has forced other social media giants to play catch up. Instagram launched Reels, YouTube introduced Shorts, and even Netflix began experimenting with short-form content. The entire internet has been reshaped in TikTok's image. And to make things worse, the effects of TikTok on your brain are almost a carbon copy to that of hard drugs. It's even started to ruin the lives of many young people. And here's an example of that. This is a real story. Sarah was just like any other ambitious young woman. She was off to university, she had dreams and goals and a bright future ahead of her. But then she downloaded TikTok and everything changed. I'm not joking here. At first, it was just a fun way to unwind after class. A few minutes here and there, it's just no big deal. But those minutes turned into hours, and soon, Sarah found herself in the grip of a full-blown addiction. You see, Sarah's descent into TikTok addiction wasn't sudden or dramatic. It was a slow, insidious process that crept up on her. Before she knew it, she was watching videos during class, when she should have been paying attention. And suddenly, TikTok's grip on her attention was so strong, she couldn't even focus for half an hour on her studies. But the damage didn't stop at her grades, because Sarah's social life began to crumble as well. She withdrew from social engagements, preferring to spend time alone devouring TikTok content. The real world, with its complex relationships and nuanced interactions, simply couldn't compete with the perfectly curated, bite-sized content on her phone. And perhaps most alarmingly, Sarah's addiction led to engage in seriously dangerous behaviors. She admitted she began to regularly use TikTok while driving, which in her own words were madness. The addiction even started to affect her physical health. It interfered with her sleep cycle, which in turn affected her mood, and she responded to that by using the app even more. It just became a vicious cycle. Things got so bad that Sarah's parents had to send her to rehab so she could finally get away from TikTok's grip. Rehab for a social media addiction. I bet you didn't see that coming. This wasn't just a case of too much screen time. It was a serious addiction that almost destroyed her life. Because the truth is, the root of all addiction is the same. Sarah's story is not different from the stories of compulsive gamblers. That's because TikTok uses the same mechanisms as gambling to keep users hooked. This is alarming because if slot machines are known to contribute to gambling addiction, and if TikTok has a similar product design as a slot machine, then TikTok will inevitably lead to social media addiction. I mean, let's just compare the two. Slot machines traditionally have a lever you pull to play again. TikTok has a swipe feature to refresh your feed. The function's the same way. This creates an infinite scroll effect, which keeps you glued to the app without even realizing time is going by. That's because when you're presented with a clear endpoint for the activity, your brain prepares for the transition. These are called stopping cues. So your brain starts to wind down, shifting gears from consume to what's next. But the infinite scroll short circuits this process. There's always another video to watch, and another video to watch, and another video to watch. So your brain never gets this signal to stop, but it gets worse. The more time you spend on TikTok, the more your brain adapts to its rapid fire content delivery. And this has dangerous consequences. A study found that teenage TikTok users who were addicted to the app experience weaker working memory than those who use it less frequently. This TikTok brain effect goes beyond just memory issues, as users also report increased anxiety and depression. But this gets even worse than it seems. As neuroscientist Andrew Huberman explains, activities that spike dopamine, like scrolling through TikTok, can lead to a dopamine drop afterwards. This makes other activities feel less rewarding by comparison. Suddenly, studying and maintaining relationships or pursuing hobbies might seem boring or even pointless. And let's just be honest. How many times have you told yourself that you're going to do something, but you end up just sitting on the couch scrolling on your phone? Maybe there's work you need to do, or a friend calls you asking to go out, but you just can't seem to get the energy to get up. Instead, you stay on the couch, just scrolling. That's your TikTok brain in effect. Now, the infinite scroll is powerful on its own, but it's even more powerful when combined with the next slot machine mechanism, the intermittent variable ratio schedule. So here's how this one works. Rewards in slot machines are variable. You don't know when you'll win. And this randomness keeps people engaged under the impression that the next play might be the one. But why can't our brains see past this trick? Well, let's look back at an old study with rats where they would get a pellet of food each time they pressed a lever. Scientists found using rewards was the easiest way to make the rats do something because getting these rewards activated the release of dopamine, the feel-good chemical in their brains. But in later interactions of this experiment, scientists found something weird. When they made the rewards random, meaning the rats wouldn't get the food every time they pressed a lever, they'd crave the reward even more. And that's the catch with TikTok. It's not just about getting dopamine. It's about getting the dopamine on a random schedule, creating an urge for you to open the app and experience that rush. When you open the app, you know you'll get something interesting at some point. You just don't know when. And it's predictable enough to make you open the app, but it's random enough that you crave the feeling of excitement as you scroll, just like winning or losing on a slot machine. But TikTok's enslaving tricks don't stop here. There are plenty of other mechanisms the app uses to keep you hooked that you probably don't even know about. For instance, TikTok's algorithm is a mirror, but this isn't just any normal mirror, because what you see is what the mirror wants you to see. TikTok's algorithm doesn't just show you what's popular. It uses a powerful AI to learn your preferences at lightning speed, creating a personalized feed just for you. This creates a dangerous feedback loop. The more you watch, the better TikTok gets at predicting what you'll like. And the better it predicts, the more you watch. It's a self-reinforcing cycle that can quickly spiral into addiction. But there's an even darker side to this feedback loop, which almost nobody knows about. But TikTok will feed different people different comments on the same video. Say you have a video about, let's say, a couple arguing.
This video, my boyfriend said he'd be over by 3 after golfing. And it's just her every half an hour taking a video saying, oh, he's still not here. And it gets to 5 or 6 p.m. and he's still not here. Okay.
Now, if you are a woman, TikTok will show you comments that agree with her side.
I opened the comments of this video and kind of as I expected, everyone was saying, oh, that's really rude. It's the disregard of her time. I don't like him. Did he communicate with you? If not, then that's a red flag. Okay. Fair enough,
But if you are a man, they'll show you comments that agree with his side.
I send this video to my boyfriend who was sat next to me. And then I said to my boyfriend, lol, look at the comments. Bear in mind, these comments were coming up at the top of the list. So as soon as you open the comments, these are the ones that came up for me. Tell me fucking why. My boyfriend opens the comments on his phone. Again, it's the first list of comments that come up. It's the same time on the same video. Or you could get your own hobby instead of waiting around for him. God forbid he has a good time. He meant before 3 a.m. He's ahead of schedule. No fucking wonder we're all so divided.
It's the same principle of a personalized feed showing you only what you'll like. Because the more you like or agree with something, the longer you'll engage on the app. And this doesn't just hurt you with the sense that you waste some time. TikTok is literally influencing and shaping society as a whole. It's fueling a dark social experiment that is leading to a mental health crisis for teenagers, increasing polarization amongst each other, and even influencing our elections. And to make matters even worse, this echo chamber leads to constant social comparison. You're just not seeing random people anymore. You're seeing people who are just like you, but more successful, more attractive, and more talented. This can deepen insecurities and lead to negative mental health outcomes. But the truth is, even before I told you about all of these mechanisms, you already knew that TikTok was addictive. So this comes back to the question. If we know that these apps are addictive, why can't we stop them? Well, it's because you're living a David versus Goliath story. On one side of the fight, we have you, a modern day David with your primitive brain. And on the other side, you're competing against multi-billion-dollar corporations armed with state-of-the-art research and teams of behavioral psychologists whose job it is to understand how to get your brain to engage in their app and spend as much time on it as possible. And with competition amongst these huge social media companies at an all-time high, each one needs to become more and more aggressive in their actions if they want you to use their app. This means that they go to the furthest extent possible to steal your attention. And it's exactly why when TikTok came out, many other social media companies took the best parts and integrated them into their own apps. So while your primitive brain stays the same, your competition is getting stronger and stronger every single day. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Nobody is forcing you to use TikTok. So if you choose to engage in an app, isn't it your fault for using these apps too much? So who is really to blame? Well, the answer is actually complicated. The industry likes to debate saying their apps are not addictive, that it's just a personality issue that you have and it's a problem with you. And it's true that some people are vulnerable based on their personality and underlying issues. But these issues are uncontrollable. Someone can't change the fact that they have ADHD or autism or some underlying trauma. But TikTok can control the product design features they use that are known to be addictive. And let's just keep it real. We all know that these hidden features aren't going away because TikTok wins when they keep you on the app. And the longer that you are on the app, the more ads that they show and the more money they make. That's how a capitalist society works. But companies also have a duty of care to their users. And social media companies can obviously do so much more to protect you. So no, I don't believe it's your fault. But if you or someone you know wants to get out of this vicious cycle, you have to take matters into your own hands. And it really comes down to understanding that you have a primitive brain and that brain functions in a certain way. So this is where the monkey comes in. Your brain on TikTok follows a habit This process is also sometimes referred to our monkey brain. This is the order. You have a cue, an action, and a reward. The cue is the trigger. It can be something external like a friend texting you or sending you a clip, or it can be something internal like the urge to do something when you feel bored. Either way, this cue leads to an action, and in this case, watching a TikTok video. The reward is what you get out of it: the entertainment, a laugh, the dopamine, the variety, the novelty, something interesting, something educational. For example, when a friend sends me a cool TikTok video and it makes me laugh, I feel good. The next time he does that, I watch the video again and I go through the loop. When you go through the loop enough times and get the reward then becomes associated with an emotion. This emotion becomes an internal trigger, also known as a craving. The craving acts as the engine of the loop itself. When you get to the craving phase, the habit loop becomes a vicious cycle where you have an internal trigger like an emotion, boredom, sadness, depression, anger, whatever it is, that you try to resolve by scrolling on TikTok. So now the reward isn't just satisfaction anymore. Instead, it's coping. You're getting relief from a negative mood or emotion. So you feel bored and you watch TikTok because it relieves the negative emotion of boredom, not because it makes you happy. And by going through this loop over and over and over again, you condition yourself to lose self-control. So ultimately, the real reason why we keep using TikTok when we know it's addictive is because we are caught in the habit loop. And this is a vicious cycle. This is when the urge to get the reward, the urge to engage in a behavior, or the urge to watch a TikTok video is greater than our ability to self-control. And this is the point where Sarah found herself in. What started out as a fun way to unwind after classes turned into a compulsive cycle she couldn't break without going to rehab. Okay, so TikTok addiction can get quite serious, but if you've identified with any part of this description, I want you to know it's not too late. If you want to stop using TikTok so much, or just not using it at all, here's how you can do it. First, you have to recognize that you're up against a serious opponent, and this opponent is very good at what they do. The easiest way to not get involved is to simply stop playing the game where you're facing that opponent. Making TikTok difficult to use automatically makes it a lot easier for you to win the game. For me, that's like deleting it off your phone, or you can just try logging out. Just think about it. If you leave it on your phone, but log out every time you stop using it, having to log back in each time gives you a little bit of a moment to pause that allows you to think, wait, do I really want to use this right now? It becomes a little bit more frustrating to use, and that frustration is tied to the app. Thus, the desire to use the app actually reduces. Now, the second thing you need to do is to eliminate the cue. So identify what the cues and the triggers are for you to use the app. Is it an emotion like boredom? Is it loneliness, stress, sadness? Or is it something outside of yourself like a ping or a notification? Personally, I had a friend who always sent me video. He was like, check this one out, check that one out. And every time he sent me a video, it put me in a difficult spot because I had to choose between leaving the message unread, which made me feel like something was incomplete, watching the video, which got me into the loop itself, or simply ignoring the video, which made me feel like I was letting my friend down. So I finally had the courage to say, hey dude, first, I love you, man, and I'm stoked to be friends with you, but can you stop sending me all these videos? I just want to focus on other things and I find them distracting. He said, sure, no problem, and just like that, the cue was gone. But most likely your cue is actually boredom, but it's not because you were actually bored. You're bored because using TikTok has trained your brain to constantly need a very specific source of stimulation you can only get from using TikTok itself. It's similar to how smoking cigarettes provide stress relief from the stress of the cravings being created by smoking cigarettes in the first place. So I want you to remember, people have been bored throughout the course of history, and you'll never believe it. They survive. I know. It's amazing, but they were able to go to the bank and just stand in line, just waiting for their turn without the constant dopamine blasting in their face. And there's actually a lot of peace in that, just being able to be present. Boredom is something you can become comfortable with. So try shifting your view of boredom from something wrong to something pleasant. Yeah, I'm bored, but out of boredom comes motivation. Out of boredom comes inspiration. All of a sudden you're like, oh, I actually want to pick up the guitar because I want to do something. And now you've picked up a hobby you find true happiness in again. And that brings us to TikTok's biggest lie. TikTok is effective because it makes you think that if you don't spend all of your time on it, you're going to miss out. But the truth is, by using TikTok, you are currently missing out on your life. You're missing out on spending time with your loved ones, You're missing out on reading the books you've always wanted to read. You're missing out on the opportunity to spend time on the hobby you've always wanted to do. For me, that's surfing. I can tell you about so many days I went surfing and how magical it was. But I can't tell you about the thousands of TikTok videos I watched while swiping mindlessly like a zombie. So the next time you reach for your phone and open TikTok, just remember, you're not just opening an app, you're stepping into a virtual casino. And just like in real life casinos, the house always wins. The only way you'll win is if you turn off TikTok and play a different game altogether. So if you identified with any of the symptoms in this video, I encourage you to take our test on phone addiction, which you can access in the link in the description. With just 9 questions, you can assess whether you're at a beginning stage or a later stage of phone addiction. And there's also a bunch of tips on there about what you can do about it.